Is Comix Zone, Sega Technical Institute's late 1995 curveball brawler, the Genesis era's best-kept secret, or an over-inked novelty that time mercifully forgot? Rhetorical question. Self-answer. Emphatically yes on both counts. Picture a game where the hero swan dives between comic panels like the Kool-Aid Man through drywall, bands together with a pet rat named Roadkill, and takes real-time smack talk from the villain's speech bubbles. It's equal parts Scott McCloud theory lecture and Saturday morning toy commercial, simultaneously underrated, launched after the Saturn had already begun siphoning marketing oxygen, and overloved, retro boards still nominate it hardest beat 'em up ever, sometimes while icing their thumbs. Essential? Kind of. The meta panel gimmick still feels 2020's fresh, disposable. Only if you consider a cartridge that can sprain wrists 30 years later, trash. I'm your penciler-in-chief for the next few thousand words. Sharpen a 2B lead and let's doodle historical context. To appreciate Comix Zone, you have to freeze-frame Sega in 1995, a company juggling hardware like a caffeinated circus seal. The Genesis was coasting on late-generation hits such as Vector Man. The 32X add-on had face-planted harder than a skateboarder on gravel, and the Saturn's surprise American launch was lurking like a pop quiz no one studied for. Marketing still needed a send-off that screamed, the 16-bit pencil has plenty of graphite. So Sega Technical Institute, fresh off Sonic Spinball and oozing Mountain Dew, was told to go big or go home. Enter Polish-American designer Peter Morawiecki. Years earlier, he'd shipped an Amiga Tech demo called Joe Pencil, trapped in the Comix Zone that let players guide a sketchy cartoon hero across hand-drawn panels. STI boss Roger Hector and Sega of America CEO Tom Kalinske loved the trick enough to greenlight a Genesis prototype. Inside STI's San Mateo office, Morawiecki's compact team reshaped the demo into a 6-stage showpiece designed to coax one last gasp of swagger out of Sega's aging 16-bit silicon. Cartridge budgets mattered. 4 megabytes of ROM was the safe ceiling unless you mortgaged the art department. To stay under that limit, the crew cut 2 planned stages and channeled precious space into extra animation frames. Those fluid kicks had to come from somewhere, but shrinking the campaign raised a fresh worry. Would the press call the game short? Sega's test department proposed a scorched earth fix. Dial the difficulty to nickel arcade cabinet. Morawiecki later admitted he regretted agreeing, but by then the code had shipped to manufacturing. Meanwhile, composer Howard Drossin hammered out a crunchy, guitar-driven soundtrack that felt ripped straight from a Seattle club. Once down-sampled into the Genesis's YM2612 FM synth, the riffs distorted like an overdriven Marshall stack. Perfect. Sega loved it so much they pressed a bonus CD, credited it to the fictional band Roadkill, and crammed it into early print runs. If you ever find yourself humming Comic Relief while microwaving ramen, blame a marketing intern and 64 kilobytes of PCM. My first brush with Sketch Turner's World came at Funkoland, where a clerk dangled the rental box between Phantasy Star Power and a pre-owned Mortal Kombat 3. Imagine Spider-Man meets Streets of Rage, only you can rip the page, he teased. $10 later, my living room CRT was lit up with neon splashes of ink, and I decided polygons were overrated. Style trumped text map math, mechanics, living panels, dying thumbs. The pitch remains gold. Indie penciler Sketch Turner gets yanked into his own comic by cape-twirling villain Mortus. Each level spans 2 physical pages. Each room is a panel framed by thick black gutters that look one shade off Sharpie. Clear a panel, and Sketch literally tears the border to tumble into the next, producing a juicy RPHK that still triggers dopamine 30 years later. Sometimes he vaults across staples. Other times he drop kicks through a diagonal gutter, turning page furniture into parkour props. Movement borrows a side-scroll brawler core. Left, right, crouch, jump. Yet Sketch's animation budget rivals mid-90s Disney game tie-ins. The Genesis's 3-button pad delegates punch-kick combos to A, a vertical leap to B, and a context-sensitive action, pick up, use item, or call roadkill to C. Punch strings end in a knuckle-cracking uppercut. Mid-air knees slide into corners like Jackie Chan on greased marble. A Mortal Kombat-adjacent roundhouse doubles as crowd control, but the environment is as lethal as Mortus's goons. Break a crate to fish for grenades and you bleed health. Fold a page into a paper airplane and you bleed. Ask Sketch to shoulder tackle a wall and guess what? He bleeds. The game's thesis, creation exacts a price. Roadkill, Ratbot 001. Roadkill, Sketch's pet rodent of ambiguous genetic lineage, acts as Swiss Army familiar. Tap the item button and he scampers forward, sniffing hidden caches or gnawing live wires. The latter triggers a screen-wide electrical burst that stuns enemies. Basically Pikachu's Thunder re-skinned as a sewer rat. Find nothing, and Roadkill shrugs. Tiny thought bubble, squeak, before auto-warping back, implying either rodent teleportation or a quantum pocket dimension. Branching frames and brutal math. Most stages hide microforks, jump to a roofline or descend into subway sludge, crawl into a vent or smash through a brick wall. Some detours are speedier, others hide collectible sketchbooks that unlock the best ending if, and only if, you hoard them like bagged issues of Spawn number 1. Damage math is Genesis to the bone. Enemy sprites hold 2 or 3 invisible HP units, but many boast unblockable dive tackles. Add environmental self-harm and attrition gets savage. Most first-timers nuke a life bar before stage 1 page 2. Lose all 3 and Mortus's grin crucifies the screen. No continues, no mercy. At least not in any legitimate region release. Boss showpieces. Each boss doubles as a tech demo. Gravis, the clay golem brute of Chapter 1, emerges by dissolving a background texture into swirling ink, an effect that pushes the Genesis's sprite layering to its thermal limits. Stage 2 submerges Sketch against Hydra, a tentacled queen who tears panel borders, flooding half the screen, so movement physics slow like syrup. The finale then pits Sketch against a mech-armored Mortus on a rock spire, while flames chew the page from the bottom up, a diegetic timer that beats any HUD clock. Pop culture graffiti, verified and rumored. STI's artists packed 90s references like Easter eggs, post-apocalyptic tire piles, Mad Max hover pods, technodromish turrets. One persistent fan rumor claims the earliest art pass included a background billboard reading Sega sucks, later airbrushed to neutral tone, but no sprite sheets or developer interviews confirm it, so chalk that up to urban myth status unless archival ROMs prove otherwise. What is verifiable? A tiny graffiti tag reading Geezer scribbled on a subway bulkhead, a nod to QA lead John Geezer. It's pixel wide but real, visible in frame 3 of stage 2 if you pause and squint. Legacy and influence commercially Comix Zone launched into a landscape already pivoting to 32-bit sorcery. Sales landed respectable but miles behind Vector Man tier hits. Critics adored the comic gimmick, yet dinged the lean 6-page runtime and white-knuckle difficulty. Morawek's proudest tech flourish sentenced the game to cult status rather than mass adoption. But what a cult! Capcom's cel-shaded Beautiful Joe borrows panel-hop pacing and meta-commentary. Yacht Club's Shovel Knight Dig traces its falling-through panels transitions here. NetherRealm's Injustice overlays punch-glitching dialogue bubbles. A nod designer Derek Kurtzik publicly credited in a 2017 GDC talk. Roadkill's design foreshadowed AI companions that are cute, yet tactically useful. Clank and Ratchet and Clank, Daxter and Jack and Daxter, even the goo forms in A-Boy and his blob reimagining. Meanwhile, Drossin's crunchy FM riffs still tour conventions. Chiptune remixers routinely sample the YM2612's overdriven guitars because fidelity is overrated when you've got attitude. A Saturn sequel was roughed out. Polygonal gutters, unlockable pencil skateboard, before STI dissolved. Later, ex-staff at Luxaflux pitched an Xbox revival circa 2001. Sega's many pivots relegated it to the vault, but nostalgia doesn't die. In 2022, Sega partnered with film outfit Picture Start to develop an animated Comix Zone feature scripted by Young Justice alum May Cat. As of mid-2025, it lingers in script polish, Hollywood speak for Schrodinger's storyboard, but even that announcement proves Sketch Turner never fully vanished. Closing paragraph plus score boot Comix Zone today. Original hardware, HDMI modded tower, or an emulator with save states, and the cartridge still pops. The palette may be minimal, but the art direction wields color like a katana. Its soundtrack roars, and the sensation of uppercutting through a panel border feels delightfully vandalistic. The difficulty retains its prickliness, yet once you sync with the rhythm, jab, sweep, rat zap, page leap, you start hearing those paper tears inside your skull. dull and find yourself chasing that dopamine swirl again. Final score, 8.6 out of 10.0, sharp as a crow quill, brutal as an editor's deadline, and stubbornly unforgettable. Will I ever single credit clear it? Rhetorical question, self-answer, ask me after a fresh box of Band-Aids.